What is going on, everybody? This is Nazdarachi coming back at you again with another spoiler review and our, emotional reaction to the fourth episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You can see with the title card right above and behind me. And as always, I am joined by Azdeek, Waffles, and Little Bobby. Why don't each of y'all just take a quick second, just say hi for the audience.
What's going on, guys?
Hi, people.
Hello, hello.
Yes, so we've got the regular crew back again for the weekly review. Again, this one's going to be episode 4. It is titled The Whole World is Watching, which is just very majorly significant to the very final sequence of the episode, which of course we will get to in this breakdown. However, there is a little bit of a build-up that requires us to go through a little bit of a catch-up here before we get to that point. So starting off the episode, Little Bobby, why don't you give us a quick rundown of what's going on here? Because at the very end of the previous episode, just for some contextual setup, we did see the Winter Soldier, of course, meeting one of the Wakandan emissaries who is hunting down Zemo. We don't really know who they are, so why don't you start us off here and segue us with this little flashback that leads off the episode. What do you think it means, and what does it establish, for the relationship of these characters?
This scene was entirely to show us kind of the relationship between Io of the Wakandan Dora Milaje and Bucky, right? Because they're gonna have some interactions in this episode that we see later on. But with this, we're seeing her reading the code words, to activate the Winter Soldier. And as she's reading them, we see Bucky kind of having like some PTSD flashbacks, right? Which is really kind of dark. And then, as he relives like all the atrocities that he's committed over the years. But then she finishes the list and says, "You're free," because, he spent time in Wakanda getting deprogrammed from the Winter Soldier programming that they had him under for so long. Once he does that, we go back to Bucky. We see him in tears. It looks like tears of relief and joy that he's not bound by those words that controlled him for 60 years or so.
Yeah, it almost looks like this is the first time that they've gone through this ritual, and he's had a stable outcome, right? Like, this was almost like his final test, because at the end of the sequence, she's basically like, "You're free. You're free."
Mm-hmm.
And then he is, kind of starts the first of many times where it starts to finally sink in that he doesn't have to deal with the Winter Soldier, personality anymore. You can tell it definitely still affects him. Like you said, he's crying, but he has not become a brainwashed assassin, basically. So from there, it essentially fast forwards, like Little Bobby said. It basically, this show and all of these Marvel shows are, and I'm going to use this word just purely contextually, but they are guilty of having to do a lot of world and character building kind of very quickly to keep the show moving forward, since they're all presented in, little, 45-minute segments, if you take out the intro recap and then the credits at the end. So they fast forwarded through enough building between these two characters here where they could just kind of instantly move forward with the whole plot that obviously Wakanda is still very, very pissed off that Zemo bombed the embassy and killed T'Challa. T'Chaka, sorry, not T'Challa. T'Challa's father. So yes, she is representing Wakanda, and they are hunting down Zemo. Winter Soldier Bucky essentially gets them 8 additional hours because he is, quote, a means to an end. They're essentially using him to continue to track the Flag Smashers. And basically jumps from there into a sequence with Zemo and Winter Soldier and Falcon all in the same room, kind of discussing their next moves. And I don't know, Waffles, what do you think? From this scene, they kind of establish what they're doing next, but it also just further establishes Zemo's just hatred of super soldiers, because he's basically already written Carly off. So you're gonna have to kill her, or she's gonna kill you. There's it's black and white. There's no other option. So what is your take on this? This build up to their next move here, and what were you thinking when you watched it? Kind of, where do you think this episode was gonna go?
Okay, so specifically with that scene, what we saw was a conversation that gets repeated a couple times throughout this episode, where basically Zemo is just saying like, super soldiers, there's no hope for them. They will always end in this such and such way, which again is foreshadowing for how we see what we see happens in this episode later on. But when I saw this, essentially it was just, okay, that's Zemo's MO. That's basically, we're gonna just reaffirm what side everyone's on, just so that the themes are there, everybody knows what side everybody is. And really, I didn't get much out of this particular scene. I felt like it was just reinforcing what we already knew.
Yeah, that a little bit of something I would add though is it kind of sets up the fact that Falcon, Sam Wilson, is almost on Carly's side, right? Like you can tell that he sympathizes with her cause very strongly, especially because his family is dealing with a lot of oppression right now, post blip also. It's just basically her means of getting her goals accomplished that he disagrees with, but you can definitely tell that he has a lot of sympathy for her.
Mhm.
It then basically segues into a very short little sequence showing the Flag Smasher group basically huddled around. They are essentially just kind of watching the news, which talks about the GRC bombing. Talks about how one of the workers had only been there for like a week and he had 2 kids. So it's basically kind of setting in stone the fact that this Flag Smasher group is, there's nothing that's going to stand in their way of getting their goals met, right? Their moral ambiguity is being very clearly presented to the audience in a way where that they will most definitely kill innocent people for their cause, which is honestly what Sam Wilson's trying to get through to Carly about, to kind of pull her back onto the right track. But it goes into a sequence where Zemo and the Sam Wilson and Bucky go to the quote-unquote refugee camp, or the, displaced individuals because of the blip camp.
Mhm.
And they are investigating, their next lead, basically. What can you tell us about this whole sequence, Asdi? How none of the people seem to trust them, even though they know who they are. And ultimately how Zemo ends up bribing a kid with candy to kind of secretly get some info. Like, what do you think is all going on with this sequence? Break it down for me.
So basically, because you kind of, even in the recap of this episode, you kind of saw Battlestar giving that same like dialogue to John Walker, where he was saying that, Carly's giving these people like shelter, food, like the whole nine. And this is where Carly essentially grew up, right? This is where she was at and stuff like that. So these people are going to be even more loyal, and you can definitely see that they like immediately they're like completely straight up, and they're like, sorry, like we can't trust you. And he's trying to go ahead and be like listen, like I understand, like I've dealt with this kind of stuff before, like I can like feel you on that, like that kind of level. And then he's just like, yeah, but I know who you are, we can't trust you, man. Like that's just how it is. And it's just completely straight up with them, they're not really cutting any corners there. He's just like, I'm gonna just take off and stuff like that. He kind of even corrects him, and he's just like how you said, instead of saying like refugee camp, we're not refugees and stuff like that. And you can just tell that they're very, very like they're trying to distance themselves from them, because they're just very, very strict there. Like you can definitely tell it's strict. And so that's where they're Bucky and Sam kind of just fail to get any leads, and so of course it's up to Zemo, and he goes ahead and he actually showed off the candy right before he even came here. He was just like, look at these, like the Turkish delights. And so he ends up using them right here in this scene, and he goes up to the kids, and he's even singing like the little Baba Black Sheep, right? And to kind of just be like more on that like friendly side with them. And he basically just bribes them with this candy, and he's able to go ahead and get information that Bucky and Sam were not able to get through the use of these little kids. And then he knows that something's going on, right? Like he knows like the what was it? The group, the Wakanda group, the Dora Milaje. He knows that they're after him, and so he wants to make sure that he has leverage. So he goes and he gets this info, and then he tells them, like, hey, these people standing behind me, they're bad people. Don't give them any information, because he exclusively wants to make sure that he is in with this group, right? So he's very, very, like, he knows what he's doing, like to a T. Even like he's extremely smart, and he knows how to make himself valuable.
Yeah, it's really clever because this whole series so far, I was really waiting for the moment where Zemo started looking for an out, and honestly, it really never came across that he did. But ultimately, we're going to talk about what happens with him later in the episode. But he definitely kept it very calm, cool, and collected. In my opinion, he's one of the standout, stars of this show. Like seeing him dance at the little rave and seeing his personality. It really makes me happy when I see that the bad guys in these kind of series get really well written and fleshed out. Because, so often we have the series where it's just me bad guy, me punch good guy, take over world, kill everybody, and like that's it, right? But Thanos was like kind of the start of a new chapter, a new page being turned where bad guys can be just as motivated and conflicted and well written as some of the good characters. So
yeah,
I just like it when we get the bad guys really well developed here.
Let's make sure we also put some respect on Killmonger here, who
that is true.
Ooh.
Yeah, yes, he was definitely a standout bad guy. Marvel's been definitely doing that very, very well. Even to the point where, I'll give them a definitive edge in the cinematic department over DC. Because you'll have, characters in DC that are like, for example, the most recent, you have Darkseid and his little underlings. I can't remember the name of the other one off the top of my head, that were looking for the cubes to just get the anti-life equation, and they just want to kill everybody, right? But, we actually see more true to life. I don't want to say realistic, but true to life, relatable, personalities of these bad guys on the Marvel side. But moving forward, we get a quick little call, I believe, to Sharon Carter. Basically, quick references to the power broker, how he's still looking for the serum, how they're trying to track Carly still, and just conveniently for the plot again, she's like, oh yeah, I might have a couple of satellites in my back pocket, so let me see if I can help you out. And from there, we kind of sequence into John Walker and Battlestar showing up again. Am I correct there? I mean, anything else leading up to that, or take it away? Like, what is your take on the whole group coming back together, little Bobby? What do you think about the show having these four titular characters all in the same place at the same time, and what ends up going on immediately next?
This whole scene to me played a lot like we're seeing John Walker trying to be Captain America, right? He's trying to be the guy in charge, the guy, the leader, the guy who holds the whole group together and makes the right decision. But he comes up kind of saying, why did you free Zemo, right? Like, why would you do that? We're taking him back in, and they go, well, we need him, so you're not taking him. And they're not going to go negotiate with him or anything like that. They are telling him how it is. And what was really interesting for me for that is it was one of those, or one of many scenes that we've seen before, and especially in this episode where the new Captain America, right, John Walker, is getting challenged, and he knows he can't really push against the challenge. Even though he's Captain America, who's supposed to be the symbol and this leader to these people, they're going, no, you're not. We know you're not Steve. You know you're not Steve. We're not going to listen to what you say. And I think that was a big part of what kind of drove the tension between him and the other characters, and what kind of puts into his rationale of things that happen later on in the episode.
Yeah. Something else that I picked up on as well is, you can tell just by this frame that's on display here for the audience, you see like they're arguing because Sam wants to basically try and go in alone and talk Carly down. Because he thinks he can see the light in her. He used to be like a therapist specifically for combat veterans who are having issues, so he wants to try and talk her down. John Walker thinks it's a really terrible idea. And you see a lot of really key emotional themes that are going on right here that are going to come into play later in the episode, where John Walker's like talking to Falcon. He's like, you think this is a good idea? And then he turns to Bucky and he's like, you're going to let your partner walk in there alone? Like, and you can tell that he has a lot of importance on like he sees them as like partners in crime, right?
Yeah.
Like they're, in it together, like they're a team, like how he and Lamar are. And you could tell that he's places a lot of importance on that, whereas Bucky and Sam are just like, no, he's not my partner. Screw that guy, basically, right? Like we're just here working together. Like it's like the dynamic between them. You can tell it's gonna have a lot of impact on what happens, later in the episode.
Yeah.
Based off of how they're setting up John Walker here to really care about Lamar. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
But so essentially their plan, because we saw in the sequence right before this that Carly and the other Flag Smashers went to their super secret location and retrieved the rest of the 12 hidden doses. And their plan is for Falcon, Sam Wilson to go in there at the funeral that the child and Zemo have led them to. And Sam's going to try and talk to her alone for a little bit. Waffles, what is your take on this sequence? Because it very quickly sets up some very quirky things with John Walker. Him giving them the 10-minute time limit to go in and talk to her. And then he gets real antsy, seems real twitchy. Guide us through this scene and what's your take on this whole dynamic and the vast personality differences between these sets of heroes on screen here?
Oh, I loved it. I think that this was one of two scenes that were really good as far as the tension went. So basically, how this scene worked, you had Falcon talking to Carly, just like talking her down. They're kind of coming to certain agreements on, I understand your motivations, I do agree with them, but I can't get behind your methods. And you see that it's starting to work. They're starting to really connect there. But we keep cutting back to John Walker, who's just staring at the clock or like getting a little bit antsy or wanting to move. And before that timer's up, he just pushes past and he just ruins the whole thing. He comes in with the guns blazing and Carly's just like, oh, you were just stalling till I got here, and just ruins the whole situation. And then we get a whole big scene. I don't know if we want to talk about that a little bit more, but like ultimately I felt this built up tension really well because it kept cutting back and forth between them. And we've kind of seen that like John Walker isn't necessarily going to be the most empathetic guy. He's more of a like goal-oriented, any means necessary type person. We need to stop this threat. But like Sam is seeing the person behind the super soldier here. And I think that shows a pretty big contrast in who will eventually get the shield by the end of this series.
Definitely.
Yeah, and you can tell that, again, Sam Wilson and Carly really start to hit it off here. And there's honestly seemed like there was some chance of salvaging her humanity, if you will. And then John Walker, he didn't have any faith. He got antsy looking at, Bucky there with his superpowers. He's like, you're not going to go help your friend. And he couldn't take it anymore. So he rushes in early, causes a huge problem. Like every other entertainment or media trope, like when, the negotiation's going well, someone always ruins it. And then the trust is broken and, it kind of resets everything kind of back to square one because there's a fight. And this is one of the first two times where...
Before we get into that really quickly, I just realized they already kind of had foreshadowed that at the second episode where Lamar's talking to him and he's like, you can't just go in guns blazing anymore. And then that's exactly what he does, and he messes things up.
Yeah, that's very true. It seems to be like a personality trait. And like I said, this is one of two times in this episode that John Walker gets his butt kicked, which again ultimately leads to transformation at the end of the episode. But we do see that Carly tries to run away. There's an altercation between Zemo, who is snuck out of his handcuffs, and all the rest of the serum. So I guess Asdi, do you want to run us through this sequence? What ultimately happens here? Carly gets shot. What else? What are your thoughts on all this? And what are your thoughts specifically on Zemo's character? Myself, I thought he stayed perfectly in line with what you'd expect Zemo to do. But what do you think?
Honestly, like I really truly believe that Zemo is the ultimate super soldier killer. Like if Zemo because we actually see Zemo kind of getting interrupted by John Walker in this, but Zemo he definitely was like, I'm ending this right here, right now. No more super soldiers, no more any of that, because he's the one that ends up catching Carly, right? He shoots at her, he actually hits a shot on her. It's not enough to kill, unfortunately for him, right? But he's able to go ahead and expose the vials, and immediately he looks at them and he was just like, all right, like he instantly recognizes them. And a part of me, I honestly, for whatever reason, I kind of thought he was going to go out of character and maybe himself want to use the super soldier serum, but staying absolutely true to his character, he says, nah, screw that. Like, I'm going to go ahead and destroy all these, and I'm going to finish what I started. It looks like he did want to go ahead and finish off Carly. But then you see John Walker kind of just come in and just, he knocks him out, and he's just like, he starts doing a little bit of shady business, right? He sees the situation at hand. He kind of he has that like ominous look on him. Like he's like looking around, and he's like seeing the vials and stuff, and he notices one singular vial that had that survived the whole little altercation between Carly and Zemo. And so he goes ahead and he picks it up and he like puts it in his back pocket, and he's basically like, this is our secret mouse tool. This will come in handy later on. So that's basically kind of like this scene right here, and it's just very, very like look at his face right here. Like he just is extremely fascinated. There's been a lot of times like within the series where he's just like, dude, they have super soldiers, and he's a little worried, right? And so he probably feels like this is the key to go ahead and level up the playing field.
Yeah, you can definitely tell he's instantly thinking about it. I think there's 2 more tipping points in the episode that ultimately make or break his decision on what to do. But like you said, you definitely see him pocket the very last one. So not only can the Flag Smashers not recruit any new members that are, super soldiers, but the Power Broker is also going to be very, very ticked off because the serum that was stolen from him is gone. And you have, like you said, a lot of different factions coming into play here. And there's only 2 episodes left, so that could culminate in some really explosive action.
Yep. And then
this next sequence, yeah, well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and then also to add on to that, speaking of the Power Broker, even her colleagues right here, or her peers, are telling her like, we killed the golden goose, because there's no more super soldier serum after that. The scientist is dead. Like that was the last of it, and so. Things are kind of like Power Broker. I feel like he's going to come in here and he's going to be extremely pissed.
Yeah, I can agree with that. We still don't even know who the Power Broker is. We have our little, our own personal fan theories that it's, the blonde chick with the satellites and all of the connections. Sharon Carter looking a little sus, but guess we'll find out. With that being said, this sequence basically confirms that with them not being able to recruit new numbers, they essentially can't fight a war on 2 different fronts with these multiple factions. So they want to try and separate the, Avengers, if you will, Sam and Bucky, and the new Cap, John Walker, and Battlestar, and potentially kill Cap. But you could definitely tell that Sam Wilson rubbed off on her a little bit, and she wants to talk to him and, potentially, recruit him or just, I don't know. They seem like they hit it off pretty well, so she's not immediately looking combative towards, Sam Wilson and Bucky. With that being said, basically just transitions to another major sequence where Zemo's waking up from getting knocked out. Little Bobby, why don't you guide us through what happens here? Because he wakes up on the couch. Of course, John Walker's about to show up. Wakanda's about to show up. Guide us through what happened here and the quote-unquote, what is the escape technique that you guys were talking about?
The El Chapo.
The El Chapo, yeah. Guide us through this. We'll call this the El Chapo sequence here. So guide us through this whole sequence.
So, we cut to see Zemo talking with Sam about the serum, right? Zemo asked Sam, "Hey, if you had the serum, are you taking it?" And Sam says no, and Zemo says, basically it was, "Oh, good man, you said no right away." Foreshadowing, right? But after that, we see John Walker come in. or excuse me, we see Bucky come in, and then we see John Walker come in and go, "Hey, we're taking Zemo back, and you guys are messing around too much. This isn't gonna stand." Sam quickly jumps up and defends Zemo, saying, "Hey, he was useful today. He did, he did put in some work, so we need him out." At which point the Dora Milaje show up, and they're like, "No, he's coming with us. That's not happening." And then John Walker decides, "Hey, I'm again this John Walker. I'm Captain America. I'm in charge." Right? Thing that we keep seeing come up with his character. So he kind of tries to use his quote unquote status, right? To put that on the Dora Milaje, and they very quickly put him in his place because you do not mess with the Wakandan warrior women, who are amazing, right? So a tussle ensues, and New Cap, gets the snot beaten out of him.
Second time in this episode.
The second time in this episode. While that's happening, Sam, Bucky, and Zemo in particular are all just kind of hanging out and watching it happen, going, "Oh, okay, guys, you have fun messing with them." And we do see Zemo drinking, just enjoying the show before he slips out for the end. And then, by the end of it all, John Walker has been verily defeated and thoroughly humiliated. He is on the ground. He looks like he's about to cry, and I might too if I had to fight the Dora Milaje. But he goes on and says, they weren't even super soldiers, and so we're starting to see big kind of inclinations on what he's thinking, especially after grabbing that vial earlier on, and that was a real big thing. Oh yeah, one of the things that we do see that I'm seeing on the stream now is that the Dora Milaje can just basically deactivate Bucky's arm, which makes sense. It's
Wakandan tech, right? They have the secret
tech.
off button that just disconnects his arm.
They can literally disarm Bucky.
It's like it looked like the Vulcan neck pinch, but on his shoulder, and his arm just fell off.
Yeah, so he just stood there like, all right, like, okay, I guess that just happened. But yeah, very, very great sequence. In Black Panther, we saw the Dora Milaje, and in Infinity War and Endgame, right? We saw them. Here we see them more in a more contained setting than, say, Black Panther and Infinity War, where Infinity War and Endgame there's this big battles. Black Panther's a little more contained too, but here we really see what a small force of just 3 Dora Milaje can do, and how quickly they can get a situation under their control, which is, it's really cool to see it in action. Personally, like I loved it. But then we also see, what the effect that it does have on John Walker, which I thought was really, really great and interesting.
Yeah, he doesn't like getting his butt kicked, and he feels kind of powerless. So knowing that he has that vial, there's only like one more tipping point left before we know what he's about to do with it. Not assuming you have prior comic knowledge. And then, of course, since Zemo slipped out through the drain in the bathroom, the Dora Milaje just kind of disappear. Wakandans, they peace out. They go after looking for him. And that was what, full circle, I had mentioned earlier when we first started this little review, is that not really throughout any point in time in this whole series has it looked like Zemo has, tried to make any conscious effort to find a way out. But just all of a sudden, the one opportune moment pops up, and then he is just gone like white lightning, right? He's just disappeared. So, hopefully he'll have a significant portion to play out in the rest of the series. But ultimately, it wouldn't surprise me if he just kind of disappeared, And because there's so many different factions, like, are we going to see the Power Broker? Like, what's going to happen with John Walker? What's going to happen with Carly? What's going to happen with Zemo, there's like so many different threads that need to be tied together. I'm assuming some of them are going to be left fairly open-ended to lead into future movie projects, right? So I don't know who's going to fade into obscurity. Like, for all we know, Zemo could be like the White Vision, where now that he's just disappeared off screen, we don't know until we know in the future, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that? Do you think he's going to be more prominent for the rest of the series? Or do you think he's made his little supervillain escape? What do y'all think? I'm not directed towards anyone specifically.
Well, I think that he's definitely something's brewing about, right? Because the way I saw it, the way I kind of like thought about it is he kind of felt like a part of the boys. Like he kind of like felt like a part of the crew, right? It kind of felt like a nice little touch that he was in there. Like I wanted him to be alongside Falcon and Bucky, and I feel like the only reason why he actually had to make his great escape right there and then is because at that point it was Bucky and Falcon versus the Dora Milaje and the U.S. government, right? Because both of them wanted to take him in at that point, and so he was just like, okay, well, I'm not going to just be able to get by just based off of Bucky's word, based off of Sam's word, but I definitely do feel like he's still going to have some sort of, if anything, I feel like they're gonna like end off the series with him like just being like, okay, well, I'm gonna be in the next like big movie or something like that, because Zemo is like major, right? He's not something just to go ahead and give him like this little time to shine and you're never gonna see him again. He's definitely, I feel like he's brewing something in the background here.
Yeah, I hope so too. What about Bobby or Waffles? Do you have anything you want to add to that, or do you want to move on to the next thing?
Oh, I think Zemo's coming back personally. I feel like he's got to be a part in them tracking down the power broker, because they still haven't done that, and I feel like that's what he's there for, right? In the first place, So I think we're gonna see him again.
Yeah, and I also think that like his job's not done. As long as there are super soldiers around, he's going to be trying to help deal with them, at least in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess Waffles, since you went last right there, why don't you segue us into this next very important expositional scene? Finally, in the episode, there's not too much fighting going on or scheming. It's just the raw conversation between Lamar and John Walker about, if you had the serum, what would you do? And what do you? I feel like this sequence was the final tipping point that, made John Walker make up his mind about, do I take it or not? And what do you think? What do you think was running through his head, Lamar's head? What's going on here in this sequence?
I think there's actually a lot of layers to this. So basically, the way the scene happened was you see them talking in like some sort of open cafe type thing, and you have two fans of his come up and ask for his autograph. So you can see he's still projecting the outward like Cap persona. So he's very good at actually holding that persona, but you can tell as soon as those fans leave and he starts getting into the conversation about the super serum that he's probably feeling a lot of insecurity just based on all the different fights he's been doing and how much he's been getting his butt kicked by all types of different people. So I think he's at the point where his ego's pretty bruised and he feels a little bit powerless. And they end up talking about his medals of honor while they're kind of in this conversation. And when he asks his opinion, because basically he's asking Lamar for a hypothetical advice type thing, because you can tell they're really good friends. So he's trying to get his opinion on this, and Lamar says he would take the serum immediately. Like he says, yeah, why not? I mean, it's only going to help bring out the good in you. And then an interesting thing happens was when he asked, well, should I take it? And he's like, well, no, you've already got 3 medals of honor. And then they end up also mentioning that, oh yeah, 3 medals of honor for the worst day of my life in Afghanistan. And so it was really interesting to hear that, because essentially that kind of is the whole captain persona he's been taking on, right? Where it's like he went and did these horrible things in war and he's been rewarded for it by the government. And like he has never felt like he's been doing the right thing until he took on the Cap persona, until he started being Captain America. And then now he feels like he can't even do that right. And so I think a lot of this is pushing him down. And so he asks Lamar's opinion. Lamar says, yeah, he would take it. He doesn't give an answer for John, but I think that's enough for him to say, yeah, okay, it could work well. He ends up asking something like, well, you wouldn't worry about it changing you. And he's like, well, you know, it just amplifies what was already there, you know, Captain America, Carly. So, you know, I would take it. And then it's very interesting that he didn't give a direct answer to John taking it. And I also find it really interesting the part about Afghanistan. I thought it was just overall very
A little bit.
Yeah, I feel like John Walker kept the conversation pretty ambiguous. Like, he didn't even tell Lamar, hey, I actually have one. But he's like, would you? Everything was hypothetical, I almost feel like.
Mhm.
Yeah, because he's insecure at this point. He doesn't want to mention it.
And what were you going to say, Asdi?
I was just gonna say what he directly said, which I thought was actually important. He said that having power just reveals who you truly are, and I feel like that could go.
Yeah.
That can mean a lot of different things.
That quote and then this one that's on the screen right now, I think, are two very important things about John Walker. And then the second one is kind of off-putting because like you consistently make the right decisions in the heat of battle. And I don't know about that when it comes to the very, very end here. But again, we're on track to get there very soon because after this sequence, it basically cuts to a very quick phone call between Carly and Sam's sister. It's vaguely threatening, but you know, you can basically tell that Carly doesn't want to hurt Sam's sister. She's just using her as a way to discreetly get in touch with Sam because she wants to meet. And they set up a meeting, which ultimately leads to the final culmination of events in the series here, because Sam and the Winter Soldier, or Bucky, go to visit. She says come alone, but of course, you know, basically Sam leaves John Walker behind, but he'll bring Bucky with him. But they have a discussion, you know, basically trying to further, you know, the discussion they had back in the funeral home where the Danya Madani character was, you know, having her funeral rites, and kind of establish that since Falcon and Carly have some common thoughts, you know, common themes going on, that Falcon will either join her or stay out of the way. And right in the middle of their conversation, you get Sharon Carter calling the wrist computer of Sam to inform him that John Walker's on the move. She's been tracking him, and they've found the rest of the Flag Smashers, right? And basically, a little bit of a fight starts to break out here because they want to go get over to the rest of the group. And yeah, basically, we could kind of start to tell that things are different now. So, Asdik, why don't you carry us through the first part of this sequence here where, you know, I guess Lamar gets kidnapped and everyone again shows up all in the same spot at the same time to fight the Flag Smashers for the second time in this episode. And what's different about this encounter?
Okay, so I think this is actually very because we actually touched upon this like a little bit earlier in the video, but how you guys are saying that they kind of wanted to separate Falcon and Bucky from John Walker and Battlestar, and I think they were trying to kill two birds with one stone. So they kind of just thought like, okay, we'll have Carly on this mission try and recruit Sam, because she did kind of like she kind of like resonated with him a little bit, right? And then you also she had another group of Flag Smashers just waiting to ambush John Walker and Battlestar, and so that's exactly what happened. So Battlestar actually gets kidnapped. He gets pretty much taken out of the battle for a little bit. He gets tied up. I think he got like yeah, so he got tied up. He got thrown somewhere, and so now it was just John Walker kind of just going like frantic, just looking for him. Like he saw that his gun was on the floor, and so he just immediately sensed that he was in danger, right? And then on the flip side, you kind of just have Bucky and Falcon. They know something, like they know they're being sus, and you know they immediately catch on to them like, oh, they're trying to separate us, and they're trying to do some shady stuff, and it's just it's pretty. I feel like it's a very good like build up to kind of like getting this like done, where this is like forcing them to fight together yet again, right? They have no choice but to fight on the same side. Even when Sam meets up with John Walker, and he realizes like, oh my god, like what have you done? Like you took the damn serum. and he like revealing his super soldier nature. And he's not dwelling on it too much. Like, he's just like, holy crap, like this man's a super soldier now. But he knows that he still has to work with him. Like he still knows that they have to fight the Flag Smashers together, right?
Yeah, I think this sequence you can see on screen right here is the first indication that we knew that John Walker had taken the serum, because he throws the shield and it just like implants with a huge crater into this concrete wall right here. I think that was, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, things are different now. He then kind of, essentially, like as Deke said, was running through the building looking for Lamar. He is breaking things, smashing things, and beating people up in all new ways. Bending a giant pipe that someone tries to hit him over the head with, like in the stairwell. And it basically boils down to the final events of the show, where they all end up in one room, and Lamar takes a dive to tackle Carly so that his boy John Walker doesn't catch a blade to the chest or whatever. Little Bobby, why don't you run us through these final moments of the show first here, and what ultimately happens, and what you think it means for the John Walker character, and as well, Sam and Bucky.
Yeah, so we see that Lamar gets hit into a wall. Carly, not into a wall, into a pillar, excuse me. Carly punches him like square in the chest, that super soldier strength, knocks him into a stone pillar, and he's done. He's just a normal dude. And immediately John Walker kind of runs over, checks on him, and realizes that he's passed, which is a great callback, by the way, to the scene just a little earlier where they were in that cafe, and then near the end they say, imagine how many lives we could have saved if we had that serum in Afghanistan. And we see a day later, maybe, that even though now Walker does have that serum, he can't save the life of his best friend, right? Which I thought was a really cool, little thing to put in the episode. But we see at that moment, the Flag Smashers realize, oh, we done messed up, and they all just book. And then John Walker loses it. He jumps out a window in Steve Rogers style, which is kind of upsetting. Did the old shoulder rush through the window with the shield, does a superhero landing on a van or car outside, sees the Flag Smashers running off, and he proceeds to chase after Carly's like best friend in the group. He chases him down, throws a shield at him to knock him down, stop him from running, and then proceeds to pin him down and violently end his life with the shield in the middle of the street. Which is not my Captain America. Okay. We talked about this like the first episode, second episode. This is not my Captain America. And we see everybody looking and filming and freaking out, going, what's going on? And then we get at the very end, in my opinion, one of my favorite and one of the best shots in MCU history, of him kind of standing up from just ending this man's life brutally on the street in front of all these people, and holding Steve Rogers' shield covered in blood, and just looking completely like unhinged. He's kind of like twitchy, and he's got blood on him from getting beat up. He's got blood on the shield from just ending this man's life, and he's like a rabid dog now. And this is this is the effect of the serum, right? This brings out who you are, right? That's what it does. And we're seeing that the new Cap was probably not the best choice for that shield after all.
Did we lose you?
No, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, you're robot, and you just cut out.
I think Discord's acting up.
I'm sure
no.
it'll be on your recording. It's just cut out
okay.
for us. It cut out.
Yeah,
for
we'll
us
just
when
cut
it
that.
did.
Well,
So, Ignat,
yeah,
make sure you edit that so that you cut out our not knowing where he was. Go ahead.
So yeah, we really do see that John Walker was not the right choice for the Shield once his true personality is brought out.
Yeah, I mean, the bloodstained shield, everyone in the crowd looking at him with their phones out. That's, of course, a callback to the title of the episode. The whole world is watching because everyone's going to know about this, essentially murder that happened in the street here at the hands of Cap. Even Carly was in the crowd. She saw it. She was very distraught, but then made her quick, hasty retreat, which kind of sets up the Flag Smashers to be pretty much screwed at this point. Like, they don't have any more serum. Carly's best friend is dead, and she may not be by herself, but there's probably only like 4 Flag Smashers left. And, I don't know. How do you guys feel, Azteek and Waffles, about this final sequence? Because this was like, this felt like a big crescendo in the show here with Battlestar getting killed. I wasn't expecting that. I was actually genuinely sad about that. And then John Walker kind of snapping a little bit here. What is your take, like, Azteek or Waffle?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, this makes sense from the story structure standpoint. Like, I didn't see his friend dying, but, like, it makes sense now that, okay, Carly's whole group, she's screwed now, so that storyline's going to be ending pretty soon. So they can switch probably for the last couple episodes. 2 episodes left?
Yep.
Yeah, so 2 episodes left. John Walker is now taking the super soldier serum. He's now set up to be the bad guy, and there's now a reason that the government would agree to let Falcon take the shield. So I think everything's into place now. We're going to start seeing the narrative shift more towards Cap being the enemy here.
You think Cap is going to be the straight up enemy, or do you think he's still going to be kind of
right now
unhinged, like kind of gray area, while Zemo and Power Broker are still kind of the main bad guy?
Oh no, I'm definitely thinking he'll be the main bad guy at this point. Like, the government's gonna drop him like a rock after that kind of this scenario, and like everything's been going wrong for him, so he's just gonna get more and more unhinged.
Yeah,
Probably
I don't
looking for
know.
vengeance.
That's
I don't know
good
how to
points.
set it up. What do you think, Azdi? Do you think John Walker will end up being the main bad guy here? Or do you think it's gonna fall more on the shoulders of Zemo and Power Broker and the Carly that's remaining behind? Or do you think Carly's gonna start to sway back to the good side somehow because she's kind of alone again? Or what's your take, Azdi?
I feel like it could really, really like swing either way. It's honestly funny that Waffle says that the government's just gonna drop him after this, but I don't know. For me personally, I feel like maybe it's just me being loony or whatever, but I feel like the government would go out of their way to go ahead and cover this up and keep him, especially knowing that he's now a super soldier. Like, he can actually replace Cap, and he's going to go ahead and follow orders, like, no matter what. Like, he's gonna go in there, he's gonna come in with his shield, his super soldier serum, and with guns. And so I don't know if he's going to be the main bad guy. I definitely do see him fighting Falcon, but it's definitely pretty like insane. Like, he is very unhinged. I think I wanted to go ahead and touch upon it. Like, this was very like emotional. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I was genuinely, like how you said you were very sad, I was very sad. Like, this, I like just seeing him, like seeing like Lamar just get taken out like that, the way his body just truly the way he like fell, and you knew that he was dead. And you can just see, like, that was the absolute breaking point for John Walker. He could not save his friend, and so he basically was saying, okay, well, this is going to be an eye for an eye. This is going to be like, I'm gonna take one of yours out then.
Yeah, it really felt like Lamar was kind of John Walker's anchor, like kind of his sanity, the one who kept him in check. He would float all of his decisions by Lamar, and now that that's gone, and again, being a very close war friend as well, yeah, it definitely kind of snapped Cap. Snapped the Cap. What about you, little Bobby? What do you think in terms of the ultimate villain here? Do you think episode 5 is going to be conflict between Falcon and Cap, or do you think it's going to be Zemo and Power Broker? What's your take after full circle seeing the ending here?
After all this, what I think is that we're gonna see Cap align with the Power Broker. Because remember, the Power Broker, how he got the serum was getting a sample from a soldier, right? So now he has a new soldier to get a sample from and maybe see if he can kind of continue that work again. Because it's very unlikely that the Flag Smashers are going to give him, blood or anything. But John Walker just might, if he can get something out of it, especially after this. And I do agree with Waffles that the government's going to drop him immediately.
So that means he can go to Madripoor. I think you're right. Oh.
Yeah. So I think he's gonna align with the power broker. Zemo is gonna come back and he's gonna be a gray good guy, quote unquote, because he's still got his mission of ending all the super soldiers. But I think by the end we're gonna see Zemo slip from his black and white view to more of a gray view, because he's going to have to align with Carly and Bucky and Sam to take down the power broker and John Walker. That's my prediction.
Okay, I think it's very.
So you don't think John Walker's gonna realize he snapped? So this is my take. I think John Walker's gonna go a little bit crazy for a little bit, trying to finish tying up these loose ends between Zemo and the Flag Smashers. He's gonna butt heads with Sam and Bucky, but ultimately I think he's gonna come to the decision on his own that this is too much for him. Maybe after a fight, and maybe even though he's got the serum, Sam still kicks his ass. And then at that point, he's like, you know what? This is just too much for me. Lamar's dead. I've gone crazy. Like, I think he's going to willingly give up the shield. Again, maybe after conflict, but he's going to come to that decision himself. And I think Zemo, specifically now that John Walker is also a super soldier, we might see him scheming a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know how they're gonna. They're ultimately there has to be a main villain here in the series. I would think, but yeah, I don't know how that's gonna turn out with it being Zemo or the Power Broker. But I do think that John Walker is ultimately gonna come to the decision of his own choice to relinquish the shield and the title. Especially now seeing what happened to Lamar. Yeah, that was upsetting. That was upsetting indeed, but. Again, that episode was fairly linear when in terms of like a action movie plot rolling out, just a lot of different sets and different sequences one after another, and some heavy hitting, even emotional sequences in there. So I'm still right on board, like really enjoying it. What about you guys? Any closing thoughts for the episodes, or anything else you'd like to see from the final two, or should we wrap this bad boy up?
Well, one thing I wanted to go ahead and mention is one of the things that stood out to me the most was Zemo asking Falcon if he would take the serum or not. So I wanted to know, would you guys take the serum, and what is like the biggest downside of taking the serum? Because for me, that was like, I don't know, like what would the biggest downside would be. I
would definitely take it, just because life's kind of boring right now, and that would definitely mix things up. I'm not too crazy of an individual, so I don't see myself tweaking out and just beating people to death.
Yeah.
So I think I would handle it much more like the now unbrainwashed Bucky. Like, he seems to be able to manage it just
Very
fine,
chill.
Right? He doesn't randomly just go crazy anymore, and albeit without all the brainwashing in the first place, he probably would have been fine, just kind of like Cap.
Yeah.
But sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not taking the
No?
serum personally. That's
I would.
Why?
no.
Why not?
I don't trust the government putting shots in my arm.
Oh yeah, if
Well,
it was
you-
made by
you just get a
them.
vaccine?
I did just get a
Okay,
vaccine.
Come on.
I have my card somewhere on my desk.
Knowing that
Well, by the way, pro-vaccine, not anti-vax. Just was making.
I'm pro-vaccine. I'm anti-experimental serum.
There you go.
That's-
That's fine.
That's
even
that-
knowing the intentions of that nice old scientist man from the Captain America First Avenger movie, and how interested he was in making sure it went to the right person, even with him behind creating it, you still wouldn't even consider it?
No. Not
So-
trusting Germans from World War II.
That's
just
fair
not-
though, because look, some people some people want like a simpler, quieter life, and I feel like taking this serum would probably not lead you down that path.
Yeah.
That leads to like the Goku path, I feel like, right? Where you're just asking for people to come like challenge you constantly.
Yeah, because when you're the strongest person around, you do become a beacon for challenge. That is true.
Yeah. I'm not about that. I want to play some like Zelda and hang out. You know?
What about you, Waffles? Would you take the serum, or are you fine with your mortal, normal existence?
Well, while I am fine with that existence, I think maybe like a couple years ago I wouldn't have. But yeah, now I think I would. And I'd start a moving company. And it'd be the easiest job of my life.
That's probably true. You make a killing.
You just pick up the truck.
You have
and
no
carry it with
overhead.
you, right?
You just you just got a truck and you.
Yeah, just carry two refrigerators in my hands. It's great.
That would be probably one of the most normal ways to utilize superhuman strength that I may have ever heard in my life. Start a moving company.
Well, I'm glad to provide that answer.
Like, even some more normal people would have been like, oh, I'd go play baseball or football and make a ton of money being the best player. But like, no, Waffles, he just has his own moving company, you know? Best moving company out there.
True.
All right, y'all. Well, with that being said, I think, that kind of wraps up everything super relevant about this episode. Of course, down in the comments, if you guys know of anything we may have missed or what your thoughts are on the episode, what you want to see for the final two, definitely leave that down below in the comments. Also, if you're new around here, consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell. We're going to be covering a whole bunch of Marvel content as it systematically releases across Disney+, potential movies, trailers, all that fun stuff, and even branching out in stuff that may not only be Marvel with, animes and other movies, other pop culture stuff. We appreciate each and every one of y'all that check out these little non-gotcha pieces of content. And we do throw a like on the video, help spread it out so that YouTube eyeballs can maybe pick it up, see it in the algorithm. We much appreciate that as well. So for Azdeek, Nas here for me, and Waffles and Little Bobby, we will see you again next week for the second to last, final culminating episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Peace out, everybody.
Later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Think twice before you